back, folks, with another episode. It's your boys, the Hit Players.
Coming at you live.
Coming at you live from Studio 17XX. We won't put those last two digits. Don't come looking for us. We're back. We're here with another episode. Today, we're talking about a topic that is an interesting one. I guess depending on who you want to ask. I'm assuming you guys, because you guys tune in to watch this stuff.
Yeah.
But actors who have since gone on to either direct or are known as directors or what have you. One caveat, though, is that we are not discussing those who put themselves
in their movies.
So yes. No Ben Stiller, no Ben Affleck, no
Woody Allen,
no
George Clooney,
no who else?
Mel Brooks.
There's a whole list. And Mel Gibson, for that matter.
Mel Gibson. Well, yeah. Not all of his movies.
Semi. Mel Gibson.
We still talk about him.
Yeah. We'll mention him in passing.
Jodie Foster as well, although she has directed TV and she was not starring in those episodes.
Yeah.
Same with Jason Bateman as well.
Kevin Smith.
Jon Favreau.
There's a lot of people.
Adam Sandler.
Tom Cruise. But so yeah, specifically more or less just people who have gone on to just strictly behind the camera. And that is an interesting transition because it's one thing to have somebody say, hey, do this. And it's another thing for somebody to then be like, I need to tell people to do this and do it in a way that works with everyone. Because I think we are both in this agreement. And so is one of our professors who says that actors are...
children.
Yeah. We mean that in the nicest way possible, but
I'm sure he didn't. But.
They are. I'll just leave it at that. Interpret that what you will.
What we really mean to say is that it's one thing to be an actor and understand the craft of acting and have skills in that department. It's another thing to be able to direct actors.
Yeah.
Directing is an entirely different skill, and oftentimes I am personally fascinated by the actors who make that transition because their interest in how they approach acting in many ways is very much like how directors approach acting. And I was particularly interested in exploring the acting in those movies that they directed.
Yeah.
How do the actual actors that they are directing fare when they are being directed by somebody who is themselves an actor? Fairly interesting point.
Do you think it's a benefit or a hindrance?
I went in to this assignment assuming that it was going to be a benefit, that having somebody who is an actor, who has experience acting, would be able to pull out more nuanced performances from actors.
Yeah.
They could, because they kind of had that shared understanding. That's not to say that there aren't people who don't have acting experience, but have taught actors. The person who comes to mind is David Mamet, who has a lot of theater experience, directing theater and directing actors in that regard. And the movies he has directed, how he approaches the actors in that movie. When it comes to just actors specifically directing other actors, I was both surprised at the there was fairly consistent, I think, in the movies that I watched. There was a consistent trend in how nuanced the performances were, I'll say, without getting.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
We'll go case by case.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's the old classic. Like Steve Kerr, a basketball coach, has said that it's a lot easier for a end of the bench / like role player to become a great head coach than it is for a superstar player like a Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson. I mean, Isaiah Thomas famously was awful at being a head coach.
Wayne Gretzky also tanked the Phoenix Coyotes.
Yeah, it's very hard for head coaches to be or for big superstars because they just don't know what it takes for like the average person, right?
Yeah. It's
And
that I'm good at this, but I'm not good at teaching another
Also,
person
it should
how to
be
do it.
also it should be said that a lot of the actors that turn directors aren't necessarily the best actors on planet Earth. Like, I don't know. Am I blown away by anything Olivia Wilde has done pre her directing career, if she has one left?
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think what I was curious about was there are certain people. So, for example, Ron Howard was a TV actor who is actually probably
And kid actor.
he was a child actor.
Yeah.
Probably better known now for his work as a director than he ever was as an actor.
Yes, 100%.
Not just because people in our generation didn't watch him on Happy Days.
I mean, we
or
completely
whatever.
forgot to
Yeah.
even think about him until
Yeah.
your dad said
Until my
something.
dad
Yeah,
mentioned it.
yeah.
However, what I think when I was thinking about his trajectory as a director, I kind of thought that he was directing movies at a time where there was a lot of emerging technology with CGI and special effects, and the kind of movies he was making, like Apollo 13 or the Da Vinci Code, took advantage of those in ways that, I mean, they were new ways of approaching filmmaking at that point, and he was kind of
Yeah.
at the front of that new era of the blockbuster movie. And I think that that was a big
Let him-
benefit towards his notoriety as a director and the respect he gets as a director now. Because when you look at his movies like Apollo 13, Rush, Heart of the Sea, they all have a lot of
The Last Jedi.
the last.
Or no. What is it? Is it The Last Jedi? What's the second sequel
The second sequel,
to Star Wars?
Ryan Howard's movie, or no,
Oh,
Ryan
no,
Johnson.
was that Ryan Howard?
That was Ryan Johnson.
Oh.
This is Ron
All
Howard.
right, I'm getting the R's
You're
confused.
getting
Sorry.
your eyes confused. I was like, did Ron Howard do a Star
Wasn't
Wars
Ron
movie?
Howard gonna do a Star? Oh, he was. Wasn't he going to? I forget. Anyways,
Honestly,
continue your thought.
I
I'm
could
sorry.
see it. I could honestly see it because he
I gotta look this
uses
up.
special effects a lot. He's almost like a Robert Zemeckis in,
Yeah.
in that regard.
He's very tasteful with it too.
Mhm.
He's not.
He doesn't go overboard like Robert Zemeckis does, or James Cameron.
Yeah, exactly.
But looking at the three movies that I watched, I think there is both a sense that a lot of the actors who turn directors are both curious what it's like on the other side, or they very explicitly wanted to do one specific thing.
Yeah.
They either said, this is a specific story that I want to tell and I want to be the one who tells it, or this is a kind of social cause that I want to support or a message I want to be behind. And the best way I can do that is to have full control over it and direct it. That's out of the three movies that I watched for this, that is what I noticed was a big trend in why they transitioned
Why they
into
did it.
directing. Yeah. First one I watched was Booksmarts, directed by Olivia Wilde.
Booksmart.
Booksmart. Whatever. Booksmarts. There's two characters, so it should be plural.
I didn't write the movie.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I was just an audience member.
What did you think about it when you first watched it? Because you like this movie.
I did enjoy it. Yes, I did enjoy it. But it is basically just a carbon copy of Superbad.
Yeah.
But females, and one of the females is gay.
Yeah.
Literally all it is. So it's like, I mean, there's funnier jokes and there's more time appropriate jokes, sure, but it's, or I don't want to say fun. I don't know if funnier is the right word, but there's funny jokes. There's funny jokes. I'll say that. And it's a good experience. But when people were like, oh, Olivia Wilde is the next best thing, and like she's gonna bring this new forefront of, women directors and stuff like that, I was like, you made a mediocre movie that only was big because of Hulu.
Yeah.
Like, you're not Sophia Coppola
Yeah.
or Catherine Bigelow. Like, let's calm down a little bit, please, before we give Olivia Wilde her chops as this new front
It
tears
definitely
woman. I
felt
guess.
like an independent movie.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it especially felt like a debut, a directorial debut. There was a lot of specific choices with editing and music throughout the movie that I felt were definitely the kind of way that somebody who was new to movies would think, oh, this is a really cool way of doing it. Almost in a way where it's like they've never seen a movie before.
Yeah, yeah. It's like watching. It's like a
It's like-
music video.
Yeah.
Like she watched a music video and was like, "We got to hit the cues here with this track," and it's like
It's like, well, that's what
that
music videos
works, but also you're not Project X.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like an extended student film,
Yeah.
which Project X gets away with it because it's approached as students making
it's
a
just
movie.
pure. Yeah,
But for a professional venture into directing a movie, it came across amateurish, I'll admit, in a bit of a charming way.
yeah. Oh no,
In my
for sure.
opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I liked it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the movie, but
As somebody who doesn't like movies set in high school settings, it definitely was a lot funnier than some of the other ones I've seen.
yeah,
in my
yeah, for sure,
opinion.
for sure.
If any of the thunder and lightning comes through in the audio, we apologize.
We'll do movie magic. Don't
Yeah.
worry. That's why we spend so much money on Premiere.
That being said, her upcoming movie, which we may or may not review depending on
I'm
what
not
the
gonna
internet
review it.
decides.
The second trailer came out, and I was like, I already saw the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much spoilers.
Yeah.
It definitely looks cleaner than Booksmart, in my opinion. Cleanliness in terms of it looks more professional. It looks like there's a bigger budget behind it. It looks more put together, I'll say.
But the thing is trailers are misleading on purpose. It's like you take the best shots of the movie and just throw them in 90 seconds.
Yeah,
So it's
fair
like
enough.
the thing that was interesting to me was like, oh, she's gonna write an allegory on something, right? And then it's like, but it's like, what is the thing? And then the next trailer is like, oh, Chris Pine is a misogynist and women are evil and men are the root of all problems. It's like, okay, that's
You're giving it away too
for
early.
A, you gave it all away. B, I'm the person you're targeting, and C, we've seen this movie before a million times.
Fair
So
enough.
it's like those three things. I was just like, I'm out.
I was more interested in it. It seemed much more visual effects heavy. And so
Yeah,
that to me was going to be the biggest
she's
draw to see
definitely
it.
doing more.
Yeah,
I'll say.
for sure. I'll
More
say this, though.
surrealistic.
Going back to Booksmart, and this is actually something that all three movies I watched had in common, were child actors. And although the actors in Booksmart are not necessarily children themselves, they are playing high schoolers, so they are fairly young.
Yeah.
And I think they did pretty well, I'd say. I think she got... it's hard to say that they got good performances out of them when the characters themselves are just
So
the
out of-
walking
yeah.
stereotypes and cliches that we
Yeah.
have seen in every movie like this.
Yeah.
But they weren't offensive. They weren't bad, in my opinion. They did those nerdy characters pretty well, I'd say.
Caitlin Devers is like was like a bona fide star. I don't know what happened to her.
I can't name another movie she has been in.
She was in a show on Netflix.
That's why I
And
don't
then
watch
she was on
Netflix
she was on
TV shows.
something else. And she like I don't know, she just fell off the face of the earth. It's weird. It happens.
What movies did you watch? What was something interesting that you saw?
For this assignment,
Yeah, or just in general. that you
I
wanna
mean,
talk
I've
about.
watched a lot. I didn't
Yeah.
know we were doing the no caveat for people who didn't put themselves in it, because like a lot of the movies that I've seen were directors,
fair
actors
enough.
turned directors. I've seen like Mel Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen all of
Well-
3 of Ben Affleck's movies.
From Mel Gibson,
I guess
What's
I haven't seen
interesting-
Hacksaw Ridge, but
so Hacksaw Ridge is a good one to talk about, actually. I've noticed with Mel Gibson movies that I feel like as he has
progressed.
progressed, the way he directs actors has gotten a lot better.
Better.
To be fair, 2 of his movies, the Jesus Christ one, whose name escapes me, actually.
Passion of the Christ.
Passion of the Christ, that's what it's called. I was thinking Last Temptation of Christ, and that's Martin Scorsese. Passion of the Christ and Apocalypto are actually in not English.
Yeah.
They are in foreign
It's really
languages.
crazy.
And I feel like the acting in Passion of the Christ comes across a little better than it does in Apocalypto. Because when you're directing people who are speaking other languages, you often, if you yourself don't speak that language, and these are dead languages that he's directing, except for in Apocalypto, actually. how emotion is translated through like verbally communicated is not going to be how it is in English.
Yeah.
And so understanding those little nuances of intonation or dialect or how body language is used when you're speaking can be really difficult to access when you don't yourself speak that language. I think Passion of the Christ, it comes across better than it does in Apocalypto, I would say. Apocalypto is very stilted, in my opinion. But it's also one long chase scene and action scene, so he gets away with it. As a director himself, though, Hacksaw Ridge stands out because that is Andrew Garfield, I believe. Other than his accent, because he does a southern accent and it is not very believable.
It's bad. It's so bad.
The actual like war sequences and combat sequences are very intense, very well done.
Yeah.
And there's a whole scene that takes place where he is left alone on the battlefield after everyone has retreated, and it is very good suspense directing. It's hard to. I've seen it so long ago that it's hard to kind of remember specific shots that he.
He's very good
are in it,
at that.
He does action very well. I think that's
because even something like Braveheart, when he's like, you're like, freedom. You're like, I'm not even from this country, and I want to fight for you. And you only get that through building that suspense and that hype and that tension to just be like, let's do it. Which I think, it's probably better things. Do you think he's one of those actors who's going to be known more for his directing than his actors? Or one of those people, I should say.
I would say so. I mean, when I think of Mel Gibson, other than his anti-Semitic rants, the movies I think of both acting and films that he's directed.
Yeah.
I think of both Gallipoli and Mad Max, as well as Hacksaw Ridge. I think he's pretty well balanced in terms of his talent in both fields, I feel. Yeah. Personally.
He's very B+.
Yeah. Well,
personality D-.
Yeah,
but
pretty much.
Yeah. Directing and acting wise. What are some actors that you've seen that have made the transition and you would say this was good, or you are going to be more well known for this, for your behind the camera work than in front of the camera work?
That's a good question. I can say that from what I have seen, there are people who I wish would do it more often. Who I would say, I wish you have made more than just 2 or 3 movies. Yeah. Ben Stiller comes to mind.
Sure.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I know that we had the caveat. I just learned today that he directed that, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
Although he stars in both of those.
The 2 Zoolanders.
Although he stars in all of those movies, they are all very, very good movies. Yeah. He has a pretty good track record.
Zoolander 2, I don't know. But
Zoolander 2, that's right. I forgot that movie even existed.
I think so did Ben Stiller.
I think he wants to forget that it existed. I think of Ben Stiller and Paul Dano, whose movie Wildlife I watched for this as well.
Shout out.
Shout out to Paul Dano. Shout out to Richard Ford, who wrote the book. I have not read it, though, actually, which is why I don't own it.
It's just there just because we appreciate Paul Dano.
Fantastic actor. Like, he
Paul
kills
Dano?
it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In just about everything that I've ever seen him in. He is amazing. So I was really excited to watch this because I was like, here's a guy who is like on his way to be one of the most well-known, underappreciated actors.
He's the modern Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. And this movie stars Kerry Mulligan, who is also fantastic.
Shout out Carey Mulligan.
Jake Gyllenhaal, who is
shout out Jake.
Also
Gyllenhaal.
Fantastic. If he's ever in a independent, independently produced movie, you know that he's going to be amazing in it. And it also stars a child actor whose name, out of respect, I will look it up real quickly, actually. His name is Andrew Duncan.
Shout out Andrew Duncan.
Does a very good job. So this movie takes place in the 1950s in Montana, which is both a time period and a location that I a lot. It's about a dysfunctional family where the father leaves the family to go fight wildfires because he believes that it is his duty. But it sends his wife into a bit of a histrionic spiral. And the movie is from the point of view of the son as he kind of tries to reconcile his parents' dysfunctionality, I guess you'd say. Paul Dano said that he loved the book, he loves dysfunctional families, and he wants to make more movies with that theme in them. And I believe he should do that.
But will he?
But will he? He has not yet. He has not yet. So in my opinion, this movie was fairly good. And that's about it. Here's the thing. This is a really good movie if you want to watch something one time and say that was very good.
Yeah. There's a lot of those movies in the world.
There's a lot of those movies in the world. I'm at least glad that for his debut, I can say that about
something
it.
Such high quality.
Yeah. Because the cinematography in this movie is very good. The wildfires that are going off in the distant mountains, they do a good job of constantly adding this feeling of like haziness and smokiness in every scene. And they don't just do it through muted colors like you would think.
Yeah.
A lot of good use of sunsets as well, which is another theme in the next movie I watched. The acting is probably for me where I felt kind of middle of the road. The child actor, again, it's hard to say he did good.
It's hard to be a child actor
when
nowadays.
His entire character was just staring at his parents, yelling at each other or crying. Carey Mulligan is absolutely amazing in this movie, and she does a American accent. She's just absolutely fantastic in this movie. And Jake Gyllenhaal is, of course, barely there because his whole character leaves. But he is honestly not believable. Because I don't know, when the movie takes place in the 1950s, I look at Jake Gyllenhaal and I don't see somebody from the 1950s.
He's starting to have the Brad Pitt effect.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but yeah, he looks too much of this era.
Yeah.
I don't see him as being somebody from the past.
Yeah.
Kerry Mulligan does that fantastically. A lot of great costumes in this movie too. All her dresses, whoever did her hair or her makeup did she looks absolutely fantastic.
The thing that's funny though is that guys, it'll be like, oh, let's just give him a proper haircut.
Yeah.
It's like, they already do that. Yeah. Like at least with the women, it's, they dress their hair up and they make it look pretty and they wear long dresses that people don't really wear anymore. But guys are just like, let's put them in a polo and a slacks. It's like, we already do that. Let's do something different.
Yeah. So for this movie, Wildlife, I would say that the plus on it for his directorial debut, Paul Dano's, great understanding of cinematography and visual storytelling, great understanding of even visual effects with the wildfires, because I doubt they lit those in real life.
Imagine.
I know, seriously. There were literally shots where I was like, this looks like did they actually do that? This is real life? Yeah. I can only assume they did not, but it looks very well done. Honestly, I was a little disappointed in the acting in the movie. It was pretty milquetoast, in my opinion. It was fairly middle-of-the-road performances from the child and from Jake Gyllenhaal, who his character didn't feel like he went any one way towards... He's drinking a lot, but he's not an alcoholic. He's yelling a lot, but he's not abusive, which his character didn't feel like it went strong enough in either one direction. And I feel like he did a good enough job, but either on Dano's part or the screenwriter's part, they could have just made that character much stronger, in my opinion. But overall, Wildlife, fairly good movie. Definitely a more coherent directorial debut from an actor than Olivia Wilde. Definitely a good movie. However, if you want to watch it, you have to purchase it from Amazon, sadly. There is no
we have to
option
support. We don't support Amazon.
So
unless
that's the only downside.
You can get it on AMC Plus.
If you want AMC Plus, by all means.
If you want
can
the
get it
worst streaming service to ever exist.
outside of what is currently happening to HBO Max.
I mean, HBO Max works.
Yeah,
AMC
fair
Plus
enough.
doesn't even, like, half the time you can't even log in.
Fair enough,
So
fair
bad.
enough.
AMC bad. AMC Plus is so bad.
Now, I have an option for the next movie I watched is an example of one that does not go very well. A transition from actor to director who does not go well. But can you think of anything that you have seen where you thought, maybe stay in front of the camera for the next one?
Honestly, no, because, like, a lot of actors who turn directors, if I would, the first one, I think of a couple, but they're so far along in their directing career that it's kind of like, you made good movies before this. Like
Yeah.
Ben Affleck making Live by Night was like, why?
Yeah.
Ben Stiller making Zoolander 2. It's like, why? As far as, like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head where I was just like, I can't believe an actor made this.
I have one.
What's your one?
Unbroken, directed by Angelina Jolie.
Oh, I forgot about that movie.
There's a reason you probably forgot about it.
I mean, it looks middle of the road, like HGTV, like 4 p.m.
Okay, so
quality.
of the Angelina Jolie movies I have seen,
Just Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Right?
just Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Girl Interrupted.
You haven't seen Salt?
I have not seen Salt. In terms of her action movies, I have not seen any of those. In terms of her actual movies,
Tell
where
me
I
you
think
haven't
she's
seen
acting
Tomb
in
Raider?
them.
That is her peak of her career. Everything after that was downhill.
She's not gonna watch this, so I don't feel bad saying this.
I don't feel bad about anything.
I feel like she actually can act, but so many of the roles that she has been in and chosen felt like they were just chosen so she could be a celebrity.
Yeah.
And that feels a little disappointing. That being said, I think of the single movie from her that I have seen, the acting in it was horrible.
What movie? Wait, what movie was this?
Unbroken.
Oh, okay.
Unbroken.
Okay.
Now, I'll start on the plus side. It's a true story.
Yeah.
So I got to give it credit. Whether it is factually correct or not, I do not know because I've not read the book it's based on. But it's a true story about this man's real life. And although they left out certain elements from his life, such as his very, how should I say, his devotion to Christianity, they don't really include that too much. They do include the just incredible struggle and pain that this man went through. Not in a lot of graphic detail, I'll add. So if you're worried about that, don't be worried. It is also Roger Deakins on cinematography. And so this movie
Should be good.
looks very good.
Looks very
A
good.
lot of really good use of, much like Wildlife, a lot of good use of silhouettes and firelight. There's a lot of shots of crowds and groups of people where there's just one single light source, and just the way shadows are casted across environments. This movie is very well done on his end as well. Some of the CGI looks like CGI, and there are good actors in this movie actually. And out of respect, I will look up their names right now.
We have Domhnall Gleeson.
Yes, he's very good in almost everything.
How
that
could
he's
you
in.
forget Jai Courtney?
Jai Courtney?
I don't know. That was a joke.
Finn Wittrock, he is also in this. He was in The Big Short as well, and he does a good job in this movie. For the
Garrett
scenes that
Hundlin,
he's in.
everybody's brother from Four Brothers.
Yeah, he was also in Tron Legacy.
And Friday Night Lights.
He's good too. He has one or two scenes in this movie. The only two actors in this movie who were bottom tier were Jack O'Connell,
The main guy.
the main guy, and then
Skins alum, by the way. We need to do a podcast on Skins
Skins?
because there's
Well, I would
so
have to
many
watch it.
freaking actors in this industry.
I'm
that
gonna
are from
mispronounce
Spain.
his name because it's a stage name, but Miyavi.
So the main two guys.
The main two guys.
That's
Now,
always
how
a
much
good,
of that
That's always a good sign of a good movie is when your two leads
two leads are not good?
are not good.
So this movie suffers from two big problems. The first
Literally.
big problem, well, the first problem I'll say is the editing in this movie. As Angelina Jolie as a director, if she could help the editing in this movie in any way, it would be their entire just 30-minute long moments that you could just completely take out.
Yeah.
There is I understand that his past as an Olympic track athlete builds into the drama of an American hero suffering and being a prisoner of war during World War II. That being said, it does not have to be the first half of the movie. You could
Wait, the
take
Olympics are just the first half?
not like the actual first half, but it is so slowly paced.
That's stupid.
The pacing of this movie is atrocious.
That's silly.
It's not even one thing where individual scenes go on for too long. It's that there are just too many scenes that we don't need to see. Just show him at the Olympics and say that he got 8th place. Don't show his childhood and how he got in the track and then how he was a high school athlete before he became an Olympic runner. All of that could be cut, and that's literally like 30 minutes at the beginning.
Where
of
was the
this movie.
script supervisor on this?
The
set?
script was written by Joel and Ethan Coen.
Oh, okay, that explains a good bit.
So, a little disappointing on that part. I don't believe they had too much of a hand in it. I think they made some revisions, but the pacing is horrible. The dialogue is stilted. The second issue will come down to the two actors I just named. The main character, for a movie called Unbroken, he breaks down a lot.
That might be the
He's-
greatest movie review I've ever heard from you.
He doesn't do much else. I mean, certainly he perseveres. He fights back. But he's pretty stone-faced in a bad way. Like, it's one thing for a character to be stoic and just kind of
Be a guy.
be not just a guy, but stoic in a way where he just powers through it. He perseveres. This guy just kind of is there.
Yeah.
And they're like, do this horrible thing, and he does the horrible thing, and he suffers from it.
Mhm.
But we never get a sense of him learning something about himself through that pain. It's really just a story about a track athlete who has bad things happen to him.
There's no character.
There's no character development there at all. And I'm certain that it affected, especially because, and this is one of the issues with them cutting out his faith in the movie, is that post-World War II, he made a big deal about going back to Japan and meeting with many of his prison guards and forgiving them to his face.
Yeah.
You know, love thy enemy. It's even said at the beginning of the movie, but it's just not made a theme throughout the film, and that would have been way more interesting. There's even a sequel to this movie, which is an explicitly Christian movie.
Yeah, that
And
movie
I have
is
a feeling-
straight HGTV.
Yeah.
That one just, I think, went literally straight to like Lifetime.
Yeah. That one probably would have been, it's probably much more engaging thematically.
Also,
than
maybe
this
more
movie.
historically accurate.
Yeah, actually. Now so that's on his character. In terms of Miyavi, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your stage name. The issue is not so much the actor himself, but the character itself and the way it's written is that the prison guard certainly in real life was a horrible person because he was wanted by the U.S. government and he fled. So he was never tried for any of his war crimes. But the character in the movie, he's one of those, like, he's evil and he's mean, but he's like kind of, oh, you're actually my friend and we're really similar. And he kind of laughs along with it. And he's like, I'm helping you because, you know, we're kind of similar people, you know? We've both suffered in our lives.
They copied that from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I'm like, I've seen that character before.
yeah.
The actor does exactly what he needs to do to perform that character, but it's so generic, it's so underwhelming, it's so not scary or intimidating that honestly, I only finished this movie because I saw that I was already like halfway through it, and I was like, yeah, I'll just finish the
Might
rest
as well.
of it. It's not her directorial debut. I could not find it on Amazon, and so I did not watch
Maybe
it.
that's a good thing.
Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. She has directed multiple movies in other languages, and so I would be very fascinated. I would be really interested in watching those to see how they come across. But given the quality of acting from the first two lead stars in Unbroken, I don't believe I will watch another movie directed by Angelina Jolie. Which is not to say that it's poorly directed in terms of shot composition, or staging, or even some of the performances that are good. I just think whoever was in charge of the editing had to just be meaner about it, had to be a little bit more snappy.
Yeah.
And whoever was writing it or whoever had final say over the final draft that they ended up shooting had to just realize that there was no theme or character development for the main character throughout the entire movie. And that was incredibly disappointing. And if it wasn't for Roger Deakins' cinematography, I probably would not have finished this movie, in my opinion. So
Roger saves us all.
He probably has saved every movie that he has ever
Roger
worked
will
on.
always be the high life of every movie he ever makes.
Always.
That's funny.
And as a war film, too, this movie comes across so, like, made for general public audience.
Yeah.
Usually war movies, post Saving Private Ryan, have never shied away from how messed up
We're going to show you some bad
it is.
stuff.
Yeah. But this movie just fairly, even for as well as part of the reasons why shadows are used so well is because they're used to hide so much of the actual like gruesomeness in this movie, as everything will take place either at night or kind of, in a corner in an alley or something like that. So you never really get a sense of the like violence that induced the suffering. You just kind of get a lukewarm sense of the suffering that was had, which sucks because it's a true story. And if anything, the stronger and more violent you go, the
More impactful.
greater the sense of perseverance and unbreakableness this man had to go through. But what do I know? The movie made like $200 million.
Well, it's a Christmas Day movie.
Yeah, I think it was actually. So,
yeah. So that makes sense.
So in terms of Angelina Jolie as a director, I think she hit the mark that she was going for, which was a big general audience. But sadly, just as a cinematic experience, she just had to be on it with the acting. She had to make stronger choices with the editing, I think. And surprisingly, this movie is not done in another language. All the Japanese is they speak English. So don't know why she necessarily went with that choice. I mean, it's probably historically accurate, but still. Yeah, that's what I would say.
We're hitting pause on Angelina Jolie, or hitting stop on Angelina Jolie.
Yeah, hit stop and take the DVD out of the Blu-ray
and
player.
also eject.
Yeah. Hit eject on Angelina Jolie's directing career.
Yeah.
Those are the three movies that I watched.
Sounds about right.
Oh, I'll say this too. Also features child actors, way worse than all the other ones. Very stilted acting out of the children when they do flashbacks sequences to his childhood in this movie. It's not good. It's not horrible, but because it's not good, it's horrible.
Yeah.
So I was fairly disappointed in this one, in my opinion. That's what I would say. Yeah.
It's hard to be a director nowadays.
It is hard to be a director. And I got to give them credit. They get it done. They still make these movies and they put them out there. And Unbroken, being Angelina Jolie, she can still like make a good movie. It's still better put together than Booksmart. More coherent. It's just when you're making a film at that level, I would expect someone along the way, or at least Angelina Jolie herself directing it, to have just made stronger choices in
Are
it.
you gonna tell Angelina Jolie no?
If I was the editor, I would have. You can't watch that movie and not be like, this is too slow or too long. You have to cut it down.
Yeah, I think that's like a producer / agent being like, you're not saying Angelina no at all.
Yeah, probably.
100%.
She was not the producer herself. But yeah, those are the three that I watched. What interested me the most was that they all had children in them. For some reason, directorial debuts, they really like young actors. Not always. They don't actually. Booksmart probably had the strongest performance out of all of them, I would say, in terms of the young actors. But what I've noticed is that these people, because they are actors, have access to just quality people on set who can make their movies look nice. Good editors, good cinematographers, also fairly decent, well written, I'd say, both Booksmart and Wildlife, at least. Not so much Unbroken. And in terms of the acting, the consistency I saw was that across the board, across these three movies, two of which are directorial debuts, the acting wasn't that strong. The nuance I was looking for wasn't there. And I think I was thinking more that they would approach them more physically.
Mm-hmm.
Say, you're allowed to have more physicality and nonverbal with your emotions, but that was not the case. I was incorrect. I think these actors just wanted yelling and screaming across the board, actually.
They wanted to be told what to do.
Yeah. So for what I watched, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. I wish that actors directing actors would be able to not just loosen the reins on them and say, look, you're an actor, you know what to do, but would be able to get subtler, more nuanced performance out of them. And I think a great example of that comes to mind is Sofia Coppola in Lost in Translation. Bill Murray in that movie, like, just exists in that world.
Talk about direct actors who are better as directors.
Yeah.
It's like
the gap there is
she's
probably the
probably the
greatest.
poster child for that, for sure. Literally the poster child.
Yeah. She's the Vince Lombardi of actors and directors.
Yeah.
That's a really good example of both. I mean, Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray in that movie just find the emotions that they bring out are so refined and subtle that it just seems like realistic.
Yeah.
It just seems like real life in that case. And whether that just speaks to her talent as a director or her lack of talent as an actor remains to be seen.
Might be the biggest. I think it is the biggest disparity between talents.
Yeah.
But I mean, she's one of the most iconic, probably the most iconic woman director.
Outside of maybe
The only others I can think of would be
Bigelow.
like Catherine Bigelow or
for the wrong reasons at this point.
Greta
Olivia
Gerwig,
Wilde.
I guess now.
Greta Gerwig, yeah.
She
That's true.
she as well had a very long career between acting and directing. But those are probably like the three women I would say are like the four runners, or like the forefront of.
Catherine Bigelow too found a niche very quickly, I think, because Hurt Locker and Zero Dark 30 are both war movies, but they're not actually like combat movies.
They're like specific kind.
Yeah.
They're like if you mixed Game of Thrones with like Band of Brothers,
yeah,
more or less.
that's kind of what it's like.
Yeah.
And whether she just knew that she would do action very well, I don't know, but she just does suspense and action very well. And
Editing, by the way,
editing
too.
very
Zero Dark
well
30
done.
is edited phenomenally well.
Yes, and Jessica Chastain in that movie
And
is also
easily her best performance.
girl boss, gatekeep, cat,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
What's that mean?
Yeah, she's
Gaslight,
like, I'm the
gatekeep, girl boss.
motherfucking. What she said, like, I'm the fucking one who found that.
Yeah, I found
Sir,
Yeah,
I was like, yes.
Definitely. Very good performance in that movie for sure.
Very yeah.
Mhm.
I like me some Jessica Chastain every once in a while.
When she's not in the Jurassic. No, she wasn't in the
That's
Jurassic.
Bryce
Park
Dallas
movies.
Howard.
That's Bryce
Yeah.
Dallas
Yeah,
Howard.
yeah.
No, Jessica Chastain. What movie was she in? That I'm thinking of? Doesn't matter.
Interstellar.
Interstellar. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, that's true. Mhm. So yeah, that's what I would say.
What are some actors you would want to see turn behind camera?
Turn directors.
I'll give you one. Tom
Yeah.
Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Yep.
What kind of
I
movie
mean, he's
do you think he
basically a
would make?
director now, but
That's fair. What kind of movie do you think he would make?
action movies.
Oblivion 2.
Yeah, I want to see what he would do
Mm.
beyond what he does now as an actor.
Mm.
I want to see like just what he would bring, whether it's in terms of practicality or visual effects or just stunt work. What is he doing? Are we jumping off the Empire State Building? Are we base jumping off the Empire State Building?
Mm.
Are we
Yeah, something crazy.
taking off of a rocket to the moon and then just like jumping out?
It's actually just Jackass, where it's just a collection of stunts that he wants to do.
It's all the B footage,
Yeah.
B rolls, and like
Just every injury he's
just
ever
can't
received.
ever use it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see that.
that would be. I think that would be my number one.
I think as somebody who has been in either challenging or in like kind of art housey movies, I think of somebody like Christian Bale or Edward Norton, who has been in these kind of challenging and more experimental films. I'd be curious if they would approach a movie in a similar way, or if they would want to do something similar to what they have worked in.
Yeah.
Because somebody like Christian Bale, the commitment that he gives to his performances, would he demand the same of an actor?
Oh, 100%.
That I would think
Which
would
is-
be interesting.
The DGA is probably looking at him and saying no.
No.
Like,
Yeah,
there's definitely
no.
been some stuff across his desk, and the DGA is just like, straight up, yeah, no, we're not committing like human rights violations on set. Like, that's not happening.
No, you cannot make an actual human centipede for Human Centipede 4.
But somebody in the similar vein who is very art housey and who's been around the block. I mean, Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe, yeah.
Very,
Will he come out of retirement to direct a
very
movie?
creative individual who is willing to do almost anything that seems interesting to him. Put that level of dedication to his craft.
Mm-hmm.
You put him behind the camera. I think
could you
you
do?
could do something interesting at the very least. I don't know if it'd be good, but
Yeah.
it would definitely be interesting.
I feel like he would do Shakespeare.
I could see that.
Not
saying
just
that
because he's done that.
I was gonna
but-
say, are you saying that because he's British?
Well, not just because he's British, but has
It's
done
like
Shakespeare before.
That's like the British director rite of passage is you have to
Yeah.
adapt a Shakespeare play.
Yeah. Well, Kenneth Branagh pretty much has that covered, I think.
Yeah, I think he just
Yeah.
evaporated that. He was just like, I just did it better than everybody else.
Yeah.
Don't even think about it.
Yeah. Just Hamlet, checked it off. Nobody ever has to adapt
Everybody's like,
Hamlet ever again. He already did 4 hours.
Now we got to do like King Henry Part 2.
Yeah, has there been a good Titus Andronicus adaptation? Let's see that one. So what about a director you'd want to see as an actor?
Christopher Nolan. That's Paul Thomas Anderson.
Paul Thomas Anderson? He definitely has that vibe.
He
to him.
is such an interesting guy to listen to,
Oh yeah.
like, in interviews and in podcasts and stuff, that I'm just like,
He wouldn't have to act.
I want to see that, and also I want to see just what you would do. Like, you'd be a very interesting
Mm-hmm.
character actor.
Yeah.
I feel like, or he would do a cameo like Quentin Tarantino, where he's like, I could see him being
You know what role?
working at like a Best Buy or something.
You know what
for
role I think he
10
would do
minutes.
well? If he was Alfred Molina in Boogie Nights, he would pull off that at the end of the movie where he's lighting the firecrackers around. That's something Paul Thomas Anderson would do
Yeah,
very
he's
well.
a very eclectic fellow to listen to. He's a good listen. If nobody's ever listened to Paul Thomas Anderson in a podcast, go do yourself a favor. He's an interesting guy.
Interesting character. Yeah, I can see that. I would also.
Who would you say?
I was thinking. I jokingly thought of Steven Spielberg because he's just done so much that I would just be like,
What do you mean? He was
do it
in
the other way
freaking Entourage.
fair enough.
I'm
yeah.
just kidding. I don't know.
I believe it.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't
he had a
doubt
cameo in
it. If he would
something.
have had a cameo, yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
He was directing Aquaman in that movie, is what he was doing in the show.
It'd be funny.
Nobody really. That's interesting. no director really comes, because I think of like people who have done both without directing themselves.
Right.
Peter Berg, for example.
Yeah.
But nobody really comes to mind as directors. I think I would like to see, and I think a lot of that too is because directing, I feel like so many directors I've seen have such a specific personality to them.
Yeah.
They don't come off as people who, like, actors who turn directors seem like it's a very specific kind of goal they have in mind. But, like, directors who act in their own movies are, like, a very specific type of person. And then directors themselves are, like, very specific types of people.
It's almost like you're like pigeonholing yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you're a director, you have this grand vision, you have a say in all aspects of filmmaking from, top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically like James Vanderbilt of the film production set. Shout out to everybody who understood that reference. So when you willingly are like, I'm just gonna act, you're giving away a lot of your freedom.
That being said, I have seen directors in movies give good performances. I think
Quentin
Tarantino. On Twitter, somebody posted Quentin Tarantino was in a Japanese movie, but he is speaking English with a Japanese accent, and it is horrendous.
Tell me why I can believe that.
I think of Francois Truffaut in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He plays the French man hunting the aliens. I think of Carl Dries in a Swedish movie called Wild Strawberries, directed by Bergman.
Speaking of Tarantino, Eli Roth.
Eli Roth.
Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Eli Roth?
Yes. He was in that, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds right. I'm going to double check.
Not Tim Roth, but I think he was in that too.
I'm going to double check that.
No, I think he was in Inglourious Bastards. Other than that, there are definitely directors who have given good performances when they have started in movies.
Yeah, he was in it.
But no director comes to mind where I think I enjoy your movies well enough that I don't want you to direct something. I want you to star in it. Because certainly, like you said, Paul Thomas Anderson is a character just as a man. A biopic about him would be incredibly interesting.
When I say I want to see him, it's literally just pure cameo. 10 minutes.
Fair enough.
He's a gas station attendant.
Yeah.
Like, what is something funny that he could do?
Pretty much, yeah. I think Michael Bay would probably be an interesting character in the movie as well.
Michael Bay. Interesting.
Nobody comes to mind. Somebody did for a second, and I forgot who they were.
What do you think? We've kind of alluded to this question, but what do you think is who made the best jump?
The best jump
from in front to behind. Sofia Coppola, obviously, that's without a doubt.
In terms of quality of movies,
probably number one.
She comes to mind pretty quickly. In terms of the longevity of their career, Ron Howard, I would say.
Or I was going to say Gibson.
Eastwood, Clint Eastwood. Yeah. That's true. Oh yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
Yeah, between Clint Eastwood and Ron Howard, I'd say.
But one thing I would say Howard has over Eastwood, though, is Eastwood puts himself in his own movies.
Yeah.
But by the way, do you hate that?
I hate it on principle, but it's done fairly well every time.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like I almost don't respect it, but I've seen so many great movies where, I mean, even Woody Allen, for example, the ones that he stars in and directs. Sure, not every Woody Allen movie is fantastic, but he does perfectly fine as an actor in his own movies. Annie Hall,
it's really
great one. Husband and Wives.
That was the one thing I hated about film school. Was like every short film had somebody starring and directing and writing, and they gave themselves producer credit, even though it was like two producers, and they didn't really need a producer credit.
Yeah, I made a point of never doing that.
Okay, cool. You send out the call sheet.
Yeah.
That doesn't really mean you get a producer credit.
Yeah, I made a point of never doing that myself.
I always thought that was silly because it's like, A, we're trying to learn.
Mm-hmm.
B, you're not good at it.
You're not there yet, at least. I think.
Well, it just takes a specific
type of person, yeah,
to do it, right?
Oh yeah,
like you have to be a certain minded individual who understands not only what you need to do, but what everybody around you, whether it's the people you're sharing the screen with, whether it's the people who are behind the scenes, what have you. You need to understand everybody's single job, and it's a lot to just think about, and to just effectively and efficiently manage.
Not only that, but when you think of people like Woody Allen and Clint Eastwood, even though they direct themselves in a lot of their movies, the movies that they direct that they don't star in, like Midnight in Paris for Woody Allen or American Sniper for Clint Eastwood, are still fantastic movies with great performances across the board from everybody, great directing, great approach to editing and cinematography. They're still fantastic movies on their own. Like, they have validity as directors of their own merit.
Yes.
Outside of just starring in their own movies. So, yeah. Final note, American Sniper, good movie. Go watch it.
Good movie. The man who the movie's about is a little problematic.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because we just look at the movies.
Yeah, and we also spent this whole episode talking about Mel Gibson and
Olivia Wilde.
And Woody Allen. Oh
man, we should have just brought a Roman Polanski just to complete the
we have now.
Problematic trifecta.
We have now.
We're going to get canceled.
I mean, considering we chose this topic to avoid having to talk about Brad Pitt, who was getting canceled as we were getting ready to record the podcast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's been a rough 2 weeks for topics here at Hit
Yeah,
Play.
we've been really scraping the bottom of the barrels for something to talk about.
Join in next week when we talk about our favorite canceled actors and actresses.
I mean, the list is long enough at this point that we
Seriously, yeah.
we could probably just do it in the year of 2019.
There are probably more people that you enjoy who are on the list of canceled people than people who are off it at this point.
And that's including music
and
writers,
artists, you name it.
Literally.
Politicians.
Freaking, I don't even know. Augustus Caesar. I don't know. Or Julius Caesar.
Yeah. Historical figures. People who you don't even realize were problematic.
Obama. Anyway. Cool. Any last words before we head out?
Nope.
All right. See you guys hopefully next week.
Probably 2 weeks.
We'll see what happens on the industry. All right. Bye, guys.